give God a hand clap of praise. That would be cute if it was for me, but I said let's give God a hand clap of praise. Come on, let's give God a hand clap of praise. Anybody know where to run when times get hard? I know some of us, I said us, we like to run to our best friends. We call them Judies, we call them besties. Some of us like to run and call our mama and say, Mama, this is what's going on. But is there anybody in here that knows when times get hard, when things get a little rough, when the road get a little bumpy? You better know how to run to Jesus. You better know how to hasten to his throne and call him by name. Somebody needs to learn, even on this Christmas Eve, to be able to say, Lord Jesus, I need you like never before. I need you to make a way. I need you to come see about me. It's good to have human consolation, but it's another thing to know that there is supernatural consolation. There's a place that you can run to when times get rough, when you feel all alone and you don't know where else to go. There's a place you can run to when your mind seems like you're about to lose it. There's a place that you can go, and it's called being wrapped in the arms of the Lord. Come on, stand up and go to three people and tell them you got to know to run to the Lord, hasten to his throne. You got to know to run to the Lord, hasten to his throne. Hasten, that means don't wait, don't delay, that means don't tarry. Go ahead and run. Three people, tell them run, baby, run. And while you're running, keep running on, because God is giving you a second wind on the journey. On the head, on the right. To God be the glory for the things that he has done. To God be the glory for the things that he has done. Has the Lord done anything for you today? Hallelujah. Matter of fact, Stephen, has the Lord done anything for you this week? Come on. All type of good. He's been all type of great. He's been many. See the many ways to see that I've been. Kept you when you didn't know your way through. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. To You careful, guys.
No, I need you to say it prophetically like you mean it. It's getting ready to happen. Touch another neighbor and say, the latter rain is getting ready to happen. The latter rain. Latter rain bringing fertility. Latter rain restoring your fields. The latter rain. I hear the Spirit say, it's not too late for God to work out a miracle. I hear and I know you've been looking all year, but the Spirit says, it's not too late. God's
We're going to Luke, the second chapter. Luke, the second chapter. We're going to start at the 5th verse. We're going to go to the 7th verse. Joyce, Maggie, it's good to see you. A longtime friend of our ministry, we thank you. A lot of members who are here because of you and your ministry, witnessing about the good work that God has done. Thank you for being here. We thank God for Todd's parents, Willie and Pamela, who is here. We thank you, Mama and Pops. We greet you in Jesus' name, making your way all the way here. We thank God for Anna's mom, who's here, Susan Bavir. We thank God for you, and we bless God for you. Stephen, I already gave you a shout out. That's Marion Gibbs' friend. We bless God for you. Thank you for worshiping with us. And as always, Minister Dwight, we thank you for worshiping with us as well. Thank you for coming all the way down from New York to be with your family here in Washington, D.C. We love you, and we thank God for you. Turn to your neighbor and say, the pastor said, we thank God for you. Oh, Mr. Paul. Hey, oh, that's glory. Thank you, Lord Jesus. And the Spirit of the Lord says, I thank God for you. Sorry. Why do I thank God for you? I thank God for you because you are a living testimony, and I'm grateful to be in your presence, that God is still able to do the impossible, that God is still working miracles. I know without a shadow of a doubt. I remember when your hand was bowed down, but you are a living testimony that God is a one who will pick you up and turn you around and place your feet on. Thank you for being here. Woo! There's a peculiar anointing in here. I'm trying to move on, but there's a peculiar move of God in the space. Christmas Eve. Trust the hero on Christmas Eve. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. In the name of Jesus. Whoever you are, I don't know who you are, but be healed in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. Pray that your mind, your body, and your soul be healed in the name of Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Luke, the second chapter, the 5th through the 7th verse. Woo! And it reads, reading from the New Revised Standard Version. In the background of me trying to move on here, the angels of the Lord just going in, giving God praise, because
of his goodness and his mercy. I hear the host hollering, holy, holy, holy. Woo, go. Glory to the name of Jesus. Luke, the 2nd chapter, the 5th through the 7th verse. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged, and who was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inns. Turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor, our God is a God that's always right in the nick of time. Right in the nick of time, God. God, we thank you right now for how you are here and how you're moving from heart to heart and breast to breast in this room, God. We ask right now that you would hide me behind your presence and speak a word through me so that your people will have nourishment for this week. We thank you, Lord, for restoration. We thank you, Lord, for healing and deliverance that's in this space, saturating the atmosphere even right now, God, on this Christmas Eve. We thank you, Lord, for not letting us walk out of here the same way that we came, oh God. We thank you, Lord, for turning it around for us, your people. Oh God, we bless you. We thank you, Lord. We give you the glory, the honor, and the praise, oh God. In the mighty name of Jesus. Glory in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. Whoa. Glory to
Yeah, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord.
Jesus.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord. Luke, the 2nd chapter, 5th through the 7th verse, we enter this story of the birth of Christ, where we see the Roman government had decreed a census to be taken of all the world. Not just of the provinces of Rome, but they wanted a census, the counting of the people, to be taken of all the world. Unlike most birth stories that we are aware of, the birth of Jesus happens in an unorthodox and untraditional way. See, despite Mary being pregnant, they were being required by law to go to Joseph's home in Bethlehem in order to be counted. They lived in Nazareth, and they were required to come down from Nazareth to go to Bethlehem in order to be counted. While pregnant, close to the due date, she was being required to present herself, her full self, to be a part of the count. Now, on my most recent trip to Israel in September, I was able to travel to both Nazareth and Bethlehem. And when I went, we traveled by bus, and it took roughly 3 hours to go from Bethlehem, which is a part of Judea, which is in the mixed section of Israel, up to the northern quadrant of Nazareth. It took 3 hours on a bus to get there. But they didn't have buses during that time. They had donkey and they had foot. I remember my tour driver saying that if we were to walk this route that Jesus' mother, parents, Joseph and Mary would have taken, it would roughly have taken 33 hours to get from Nazareth to Bethlehem.
We tell the truth, most of us don't like walking up the doggone staircase to get to our job. We'll take the elevator before we do it. Let's just be honest. And if there is no elevator, we'll take the lift stairs. What is the name of it? The escalator. But we ain't walking 33 hours to get nowhere for many of us. And if I was to make this sermon about health, that's why some of our health needs to be looked into, because we won't take the time to do what we need to do. But they walk 33 hours. Mary, a pregnant woman, walked 108 miles, 33 hours to get counted because the government said it was required. But right here in this passage, Deacon Simmons, it tells us something. Mary and Joseph had to go back before they could come forth with the new thing that God was doing. For those who are listening, those who have an ear, listen to what the Spirit is saying. I want you to know, before you can bring forth a new thing in your season, sometimes you have to go back. You don't hear me yet. Before you can be elevated, before you can go higher, before you can take the next step for where you're supposed to go, sometimes there's some things you got to do back there. There's some things that you got to clean up that you messed up. There's some relationships that you have to go back and apologize to. God won't allow you to go higher until you go back and clean up and do. Somebody just say, ouch, if you got to go back and make situations right. Because you can't carry the baggage that you have right now. The baggage that's eating away at you won't allow you to see things for what they are. You're reading it through a rose-colored lens of what you've been through because you haven't dealt with the stuff you've been through. Sometimes you have to go back so you're not always so mean at everybody. Just because somebody say hi, you won't take it personal. They walked past me and didn't speak to me. That's your issues, baby, from your past. And God is saying, I can't take you to the next level with you carrying that issue, because you just might ruin what I'm trying to do. Sometimes you have to go back and deal with the stuff, clean up the mess, and be honest with yourself of some of the things you got that filters into your present, preventing you from being able to effectively carry out your future. But we're talking about the Roman government. The Roman government required the census. If anybody know anything about history, the Roman government was an oppressive government that would come in and they would conquer many nations and subject those nations and those people to what their ideologies was, what their beliefs was, what they had as a world view. They would make the folk who they came in and subjected, they would make them follow those orders. The Roman government felt that they had rule over the world. They desired to take a census of the world. They wanted to take account of their resources to determine what they had at their disposal. In particular, how many human lives they had at their disposal. See, instead of calling a census to count, to determine what level of support they could distribute to the citizens that were in need under their care, they wanted to get a census to count how much taxes they could collect, or how many people that they had at their disposal to go to war. They didn't care about the people that they were forcing to get counted. Everyone had to be counted. I don't care if you were old. I don't care if you were a woman. I don't care if you were sick. I don't care if you were pregnant, ugly, whatever it is, wherever you are, you have to come back to your place of residence to be counted.
Wow.
Just like the political powers back in Mary and Joseph day, we have a similar situation today, y'all. Instead of caring for the citizens under their watch, the government, folk, and political powers just want to know how much of an asset their citizens can be to them. If I could just go there for a minute, Deacon Kim, instead of ensuring quality health care for all of the citizens, no, some people in political powers decide to increase the taxes on the most vulnerable citizens who need the help, while reducing taxes for folk who don't need it, their friends, themselves, and their cronies. I'm talking about Mary and Joseph days. Instead of ensuring quality education for all citizens, they cut school budgets, they shut down schools, they kick out teachers just to save money and place that money in the war chest. Let me just be honest for a minute. Instead of ensuring the unity and safety of its citizens and the well-being Just like the political powers back in the day of Mary and Joseph, who felt they ruled the world, we too have political powers who feel that they rule the world. The political powers will put their nation at risk for more terrorism by decreeing a new capital for a whole nother country and say, I don't care who you are, where you are, but this is my world and I'm going to call this the capital instead of the capital that you deem as your capital. Not understanding the political climate that you're causing that could cause another World War III. I remember when I was in Bethlehem leaving out of Jerusalem, we left out of Jerusalem and there was a huge wall around this city called Bethlehem, and as we drove they stopped the bus and the soldiers said, are there any Jewish people on this bus? You cannot enter into Bethlehem. Somebody said, why can't we enter into Bethlehem? It's because the Bethlehem is one of the occupied places by the Palestinians. The two people living in the same nation. Jerusalem is right here, Bethlehem is right here, and this wall is built around a community that says nobody that don't look like us, think like us, feel like us can enter in. And everybody had to get off the bus that was of Jewish descent because of a conflict that existed and goes back many years. Well, what do you think happens when we insert ourselves into a conflict where folks are already fighting over whose land is it and when is it and why is it, and we decide to stick our nose in and determine that this is going to be the capital, linking on the side of those who are prosperous and who we believe will help us gain prosperity. God needs to do something about this, but there's a God that's right in the nick of time, right in the nick of time, right in the nick of time. After traveling, I'm going somewhere, for over 33 hours, 108 miles, down a crowded, unpaved road, around mountains and through valleys, Mary and Joseph finally arrived at the city of Bethlehem. I can imagine the stress that Mary, who's pregnant, is under after this long journey. She comes into a city and she needs to lay her head down while carrying this child of promise, this child of destiny on the inside of her, only to find that there's no room available in the entire city for her to lay down. I can imagine that all hope was lost at this point. Think about it. Put yourself there. That they might have felt like giving up. We've come 180 miles. We have walked this road. My body is tired. I'm due any day. And I just want to lay my head down. My feet are swollen from the long walk. That I can imagine what they were experiencing. But is there anybody in here that knows the God that we serve is always a right in the nick of time God? It may look hard. You may have had to go up the rough side of the mountain. You may have to endure a tough period. But guess what? The God of your salvation never leaves you alone. God always shows up to come see about what's his. I can imagine as they begin to make plans to go ahead and sleep outside and possibly have the baby outside in the gutters of the street. I can imagine. They said, Lord, why would you bring us this far? Why would you interrupt our life with this dysfunction, causing our situation? We were about to get married. We were happy, and you caused this thing to happen. But anybody know that's right when God steps in? That's when God steps in, when you don't see any hope, when you don't know another way. Some type of way, miraculously, someone offered their animal stable for them to rest their head. Now, I see you, Dickie Kim. I know you're like, look, God, you know, I've been through all this 108 miles, and you came and changed my plan that I had about getting married. I hear you, Pastor AJ. And Lord, you could have did more than just hook me up with an animal barn. Why do I have to go inside the barn with that? Many of us would say, Lord, now I'm your chosen. I'm a royal priesthood, a peculiar people. Why would you give me the barn to sleep in? Don't you know that God does all things well? It may not come how you want it. It may not look like what you want, but when God does it, it has a purpose to it. Let me hermeneutically apply this for somebody in here. Everybody's looking for the hottest thing to be their boo. Baby, you better look at what God has placed in front of you, because that may be the answer to where you're trying to go. Instead of trying to find the hot thing, the tenderoni thing, you better say, Lord, what thing is for me? Lord, thy will is what I'm looking for. Thy will is where I want to be. I don't want to go anywhere that you don't have in store for me, because I know that there's
But a miracle did happen. So often the things that we don't look at as big is actually miraculous. The things that we count off or count, oh God, you could have did better. You could have gave me the Benz instead of giving me the Pinto. It's a car. You have it to be able to get to point A and B. And instead of counting it off, saying, God, you could have gave me the big house on the hill. You gave me this studio. Why it is an apartment on top of that? But you don't know some people are living out in the streets. Somebody got to learn how to count your blessings and name them one by one. The song says somebody is worse off than you and desires to be in your shoes. You may be going through hell in your social context right now, but guess what? Your hell, somebody else's hell is way worse than the hell you're going through right now. And God is still providing and making a way for you.
That's good, sir.
Even through this.
Help us today. Come
Some
on.
type of way this miracle happened. It's right here, Deacon Simmons, at the point of the text that we see God is not only a right now God, a right on time God, but we see that God is a right in the nick of time God. I'll say it again. It's right here in the text that we see that God is not just an on time God, but God is a right in the nick of time God. Somebody said, Pastor, what you talking about? They sound the same to me. I hear you, Minister Paul. But it's not the same. See, on time God means that God comes right when you need God to come. God showed up right when you need it. A long time period has passed, but God showed up right when you need it. A right in the nick of time God is a God that comes after nothing else can be done about the situation. And God turns it around anyhow in your favor. Webster Marion put it this way: in the final critical moment is when God shows up, is what we call a right in the nick of time God. Not in the final moment, but in the final critical moment when you are on life support about to take your last breath and they say they coded out, but God says no, not yet. 10 minutes later, life is back in your body. That's right in the nick of time. That's when all else, according to your calculation, according to what you deduce, according to what you see with your eyes, it is impossible. It is done. It is infinito. It is finished. But God says that's what you think with your limited self. I want to show you that I'm bigger than your thoughts. I want to show you that I'm bigger than your situation. And I come to blow your mind and do what you call impossible. That's a right in the nick of time, God. Let me help somebody real quick with this. That's not when you were about to fall. That's when you fell off and God reached out and picked you up. That's when you, not when you were about to form the words in your mouth to cuss the person out that cut you off. That's when you cussed them out. And they had a gun and could have shot you, but God blocked it. A right in the nick of time, God, is when the doctors gave you a death sentence and said you only had 2 weeks to live, and God showed up 2 weeks later and said live and not die. A right in the nick of time, God, is when they gave you an eviction notice. They scheduled the day to put your stuff on the street, and God showed up right then and there and said not so. That's a right in the nick of time, God. Touch your neighbor and say, I serve a right in the nick of time, God.
Yes, I do. Yes!
See, I know Faison likes this. But right in the nick of time, God, is when there is no other possible way but God. But God. Turn to your neighbor and say, but God.
But God. But God.
But God.
It's right when you don't see another way but God steps in. It's right when you can't see any other possibilities but God turns the situation around. Anybody know about a but God moment? But is a conjunction that connects what's in front to what's on the end. And but says that everything that happens before what I'm about to say is now erased. Everything that happens before this conjunction is no longer in existence. But God stepped in. But God turned it around. But God healed your health. But God healed your home. But God is a right in the nick of time moment. Tell your neighbor, God is a but God.
God is a but God. A big but God. Come on.
You like the butt of God. The butt of God is real big. And let me tell you, the butt of God is big enough to handle enough to handle you, and where you are on earth is big enough to handle you and your neighbor. It's big enough because God is not limited. He's omnipresent. He's always at all times. Don't limit God. As a matter of fact, thank you, Holy Ghost, for the email. When you see God doing something for your neighbor, even though you're struggling or on a low place with the same thing, don't get jealous. That's when you need to go ahead and praise God, because God is big enough to do it for them and do it for you all at the same time. Somebody shout, but God!
But God! Yes, God!
For those who are taking notes, 3 points, and we're going to get up out of here. 3 things this text shows us through the miracle of God stepping in right at the nick of time. The first thing that this text shows us, Chris, is that only God could do this. See, there are times when God takes us to our limits in order to show us that it's only through God that it's possible. I know, Sonita, we like to be in control. I know that we like to have it our way, Rakeem, but sometimes God, and not the devil, will push you to your limit so that you can realize with your mind and with your limited wisdom that it's only God that can do this thing. Sometimes God would allow you to go out and you would say, Lord, I know you called me to do this, but I made the decisions to get here, and God is quiet. You're like, Lord, where are you? I don't hear you like I used to. I don't feel you like I used to, and God is right there carrying you through this thing. God is saying, I want you to know, if you don't see the step I told you to go ahead and take the step anyhow, because when God says that God is going to provide, even though you may not see the step and you feel like you're at the point of breaking, you feel like you're at the point of tipping over, you feel like you're at the point of falling, God is able to build a step where you see no step. God is able to carry you even through that. Your faith is increased when you experience God doing the impossible. God is able to do the impossible right in the nick of time. God, only God can do this. See, as they arrived to their hometown, Bethlehem, Joseph tried to find folks that would help him during this time of life. This was his hometown. He knew people here. He had family in this town. But soon and very soon they learned that there was nobody there to help them with their needs. Anybody ever been there before where you said, I'm going home so I can see my family, and I know my family got my back. I know my cousin Junebug got my back. I know my auntie got my back. And you turned to them in your time of need, and you found out that they just couldn't do anything about what you were dealing with. Anybody ever been there before? Sometimes the call of God will leave you feeling lonely, leave you feeling like you are alone without a person to turn to. But I want to tell you that those who are called, and that's you. Turn to your neighbor and say, that's you. It's called the priesthood of believers. We all are called. That's a part of the cost of the call. That's a part of what you have to go through for the making, for the enduring. Well, I want you to know what you're about to bring forth in your season can't be handled by everybody. See, the reason why you can't call your friend and they have the answer because they can't handle what you are supposed to bring forth in the season. It ain't supposed to be touched by everybody. Everybody's fingerprint ain't supposed to be on it, because you don't need to cross-pollinate the DNA of what God is trying to do. God says, I want this to be all me, my hands on it, my DNA on it. And sometimes we try to take it to people to deal with, and we'll mess that thing up. But God is saying, I want you to know that I'm doing this and nobody else is doing it. I am God, and I need you to know that I'm making the way. I'm the one that's handling this. So you can't go to mama, she don't got the money for you this time. You can't go to cousin, they don't have the word for you this time. But baby, if you just learn how to go down on your knees and say, God, I've searched all over, I looked all over, I turned in every direction, and right now I realize that it's only you. Lord, I need you like never before. That's when God smiles. When you ever say, Lord, I surrender all. That's when God smiles, because God realizes you realize you can't do it without him. Oh, Lord, I need the job. And God says, now you asked the right person. Oh, Lord, I need you to solve the family dilemma. Now you've come to the right place. Oh, Lord, I need you to shut the lion's mouth. Now you've come to the right place, to the one who can do something about where you are. God teaches us that it's only him in situations that will work through people. Don't get confused and think that it's the people. It's the God behind the people, the God that's in the people that allows for miracles to take place. Second thing we see in this about a right in the nick of time God is that it happens in God's time.
Yes.
If they didn't learn anything else, Joseph and Mary learned something about God being right in the nick of time. And the first thing that we should know is that God's timing is not our timing. I know you feel tired. I know you're ready for the shift to happen.
Come on.
I know you're ready for the building to be released. I know you're ready for the promotion to come about, but not in your time. In God's time. I know you're tired of being what you think is alone, but not in your time and in God's time. Sometimes God is trying to teach us to operate in God's time and not our time. It could have happened at any other time, but God chooses now. When God sees that you're able to handle it, when God sees that you're ready to go to the next level, that's when God decides to allow it to happen when you have been ready. You've been asking to become a millionaire for 15 years. You've been scratching every lottery card. You played every number in the Powerball. But it's not until God says you can handle it. Look back over your life and think about how you splurged and how you didn't take care and be a good steward of what God had already given you. God is waiting to see, when will you learn stewardship? When will you learn how to manage what I've given you? You thought for a long time it's my doing. I'm getting up and I'm going to work. I'm doing it in my might and my strength. When will you learn? It's not until you realize it's God's might and God's strength that you wake up every morning. It's God's strength, because it could have been another way that you were able to go to work. It's when you realize that it's only because of God and it's only because God's willed it to happen when you see your next level come about. I know this thing is embarrassing you. It's causing you to be humble. It's causing you to feel humiliated. No one to turn to, no place to turn. But don't you know that God will use your point of humbling to elevate you? It's when you get the fact that you were being too high and fidity. It's when you get the fact that you were being uppity and you didn't remember where God had brought you from, that God will say, now you got it. Now you can handle more. Now I can give you the much that I have in store for you. It's when you realize that's when God's timing comes to pass. The third and last thing that you see in this text through the right in the nick of time God is that God will make room for you. God will make room for you. Because of who you are. And I'm not saying that arrogantly. I'm not saying that in an uppity way. But because of who you are and whose you are.
Come on.
I want you to know God will always make a way for you. God will always make room for you. See, Joseph and Mary arrived into Bethlehem and everyone said, ain't no room here. There's no place for you to sleep. I think of Forrest Gump when I think of this. When he came on the bus and the kids said, no seat here, no seat here. Everybody's saying that there is no room for you here. But you got to remember that you serve a God that makes room in all type of places. Think about it. You serve a God that put the stars and the moon and the planets in place. And when there was no space, God created space. And God made a place that you can call home, call earth. God is the God that makes room for his children. God opened up an opportunity for them to find refuge at a stable, hay for them to rest their head, and comfort and warmth from a fire. It may not have been what they wanted, but God met their needs. It may not look like how they wanted, but God met their needs. It may not have smelled like they wanted, but God met their needs. God made room for them. And what people would say is a not room situation. Yes, they told you that you were not good enough. There was not room for you at the table. room for you. Even when politics say there is no room for you, God said, I'm making room for you. Even when men say there is no room for you, God has said, look out, here you come. I'm making room for you. Even when they say there's no space, there's no time, we don't have no more resources, God has said, I'm opening doors for you because I'm making a way. That's what God means when it says, I am a writer. Now, God, people wrote you off because of who your parents were, but God says, I'm lifting you up. People called you out and called you all types of names, but God says, I'm rewriting your name. How people said and did all manner of things to you, but God says, I'm going to restore the years that the cankerworm and the palmerworm and the caterpillar has tried to destroy. He said, the latter rain shall be better. The latter rain shall be greater. That means the rain that was before was not sufficient. It was drought. But what's about to come, what's about to happen is making room for you to go higher. It's making room for you to go further. It's making room for you to be at the table when folks said you don't belong.
Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah.
God will defy the wisdom of the wise to show what he can do. Folks said because of your sexual orientation, you can't serve God. And God says, here's a space just for you. Come on to the table. God has a table that is spread, and the feast of the Lord is going on. And guess what? There's a seat at the table with your name on it. Because God is a right in the nick of time, God. We'll close out with this. You got to remember in Advent season, the word that surfaces is the word Emmanuel. And Emmanuel means that God is with you, or God is with us. And I want you to know, child of God, I want you to know, Jesus, I want you to know, God's baby, that at the end of the day, God is with you. I don't care what you go through. I don't care how hard it seems. I don't care how bleak it looks. If you just keep taking steps and know that God is with you, you will get through this. This too shall pass. This will become your past. You will look back and say, how did I make it over this? When you know that God is with you, trouble don't last always. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. When you know that God is with you, he will never leave you nor forsake you. When you know God is with you, even though right now it feels like you're the Lord, God will lift you up. You just keep holding on to God's unchanging hand. I want you to know that as long as God is with you, it ain't over. Turn to your neighbor. Tell your neighbor, it ain't over. It ain't over because the God of your salvation is with you. It ain't over because the God of your salvation is making a way. It ain't over until the God of your joy is carrying you. It ain't over because the God of your peace is wiping your eyes in the midnight hour. It ain't over because God is with you. Don't count out yet. This is not a knockout situation. God is with you. God is seeing you through. God is making a way. It ain't over until God says it's over. Though you slay me, yet will I serve you, because it ain't over yet. On Christ, the solid rock I stand. Even though it looks shaky, even though the wind is blowing, even though the surface looks like quicksand, on Christ, the solid rock I stand. All other grounds are sinking sand. Why? Because God is with me, even through this. And when God is with me, God always shows up right in the nick of time.
Come on.
Even when you make dumb decisions, when you make silly decisions, and you mess things up, God says, come on, baby, I got you. Come on, I'm lifting you up. This is not your ending place. I got destiny and purpose in your belly. And I'm not going to let that investment fall by the wayside. I've invested in you when you were in your mother's womb. I called you by name. I put a purpose in you. And yes, it looks hard right now. But baby, it's only for the making. It's only for the strengthening. It's only so that you can handle what I've destined you for, what I've called you to. This is not your ending place. Lord, your neighbor and say, my God is a right in the nick of time God. My God is a right in the nick of time God. Let's give God a hand clap of praise. Come on, let's give God a hand. I don't care whether you feel like you're tremendous right now. Let's give God a praise. Because even through this, you win. Even through this that you're going through, you're going to win. You're going to come out, you're going to win. The battle is rigged, you're going to win. You're going to come out. I don't care what number 45 does. In the end, you win. I don't care what they said. In the end, you win. I don't care how they hurt your heart, your feelings, or your emotions. In the end, you win. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, you win. It's already called. The verdict is already out. The David is set the bell and you win. You come forth as gold. You come forth as shining armor. You come forth. In the nick of time. Right in the nick of time, God. Let's give God a hand clap of praise. Let us stand.